Our first matchup of the ABC Bud Light Masters, not a good one for the amateur Joe Vito Buenrostro.
Very right, Tim. In the first frame, he throws the ball high, leaves the 3-6 spare, seemingly not too difficult a one. Throws the ball hard and straight at it, but chops the 3 off the 6. That put him in a hole right from the beginning. He was trailing throughout the match, but still close as he entered the 6th frame. In that frame, he throws the ball a little bit high and leaves the 4, 6, 7, 10, or double pinochle. He got 2 of those and fell even further behind. Then in the 8th frame, on a seemingly well-delivered shot, he throws the ball just a little high, pins flying all over the place, still couldn't even buy a strike as the 4-pin stands, and Joe Vito went down to defeat.
But it was a chance for momentum for a player that had been struggling throughout the last 2.5 years, Pete Couture.
Couture was on tune the whole game, throwing the ball straight in the pocket from around the 8th board, bowled a nice clean game and won it 213 to 180.
And as the 5th qualifier, Couture would get a second try in this tournament against Marshall Holman.
He's going to have a little more animated player in Marshall Holman than in Joe Vito. Couture, though, starts with the strike. That's the way you're supposed to.
Holman has really been categorized by most in this profession as the most charismatic of the modern-day bowlers.
Definitely, I think you could say that he's the most charismatic. And people usually either love Marshall or they hate him. It's somewhat like John McEnroe of tennis. You know. And right away, he heard something. Somebody dropped something in the back. Marshall makes a comment to whoever. Marshall's never shy about voicing his opinion.
This year alone, he's earned $81,410.
And he's going to be the leading money winner regardless of what happens.
He believes this could give him Bowler of the Year honors. Championship here.
With a win. Goes high, breaks up the 4, 7, 10, leaving only the 4-pin. Marshall's happy with that. He's got the first shot out of the way. He was striking in the practice balls just a little slow. Just a little soft. The ball snaps right at the end. You're going to see a bunch of pins up there. And the 6-pin falls over and knocks out that 10 to break up that split. Marshall usually throws very hard and straighter at his spares. As at this one. Has it with no trouble.
And the Firestone champion of this year gets the spare at the first frame.
You know, when I won the Firestone in 1972, I was able to come back and win it 10 years later in 1982. Marshall won it in 1976, and when he came this year, he was thinking about that, seeing if he could do it 10 years later, and that was in his mind all during the week, and he wound up doing it. Trying to get that aggressive personality going there.
Looks good. I'd say he's into it, wouldn't you?
Well, that's just the beginning. Couture has to try and defuse him right away. To beat Marshall Holman in a one-game match like this, Couture must get out of the gate quickly. At least that's my opinion. To come out here now and throw a strike right now and one behind it and put Holman in a hole. Good speed, but through the heart. Leaves the 6-10 just a little quick with his follow-through. He just kind of aimed that shot. He knew that too, that he wanted to get Holman in a hole right away, and he just kind of steered that ball.
Pete is probably best remembered for winning the '83 Syracuse stop. He really didn't make the final cut, though, but when a bowler was disqualified, he got the 24th spot, took it all the way to the top.
PBA history in that. Cross lane at the 6-10.
Got it. This has been like a convention for bowling here at the Cashman Field Center.
It's quite an impressive setting to have a television show and an organized bowling tournament. Everybody always enjoys the ABC.
An atmosphere unlike most that you'd ever find in bowling during the course of any given year.
Gets the light hit.
So Pete is off to the kind of start he would need against Marshall.
Well, he didn't get that double in Turkey, so they're just even in the match right now. Holman now has the hammer in his hand. Not literally, it's not that ball, but he has a chance to take an early lead with a double here. Taking very little time.
A little high.
Both bowlers just tentative right now. Both bowlers just tentative. 3-6-10. Difficult spare, not easy at all. Anytime you got 3 or more up there, they get more tough.
Whether they be split or not, if you leave 3.
Well, it's a little easier than the split, but the 3-6-10 is never an easy spare. Again, he'll probably move left and throw with good speed. No, he's shooting it differently. Shot it off his strike target and did not convert it. It hooked, and he chops the 3 off the 6, leaving the 6-10. And right, he's put Couture ahead with Couture sitting on the bench. He played it off his strike line, different than I thought he would do. I thought he would move left and throw straight, and he threw a hook at it, and that's the result.
There you see the reaction of Marshall Holman, who will very quickly show you a reaction to any given shot.
Trying to recover some. Gives this one more room. It leaves a solid 8.
Boy, that one looked good all the way through. But
it was good, Tim. It's just a freak in bowling, but you see it quite often nowadays with the power shots, and you're going to watch the ball chop the 5 straight back off the 8 here, and boom. What they say is the only true tap in the sport of bowling. I personally never have believed that. At the 8 pin, and has it.
So Holman and Couture very close through 4 frames. Holman by 14. There you see the wide open spaces of the Cashman Convention Center at Las Vegas, Nevada, the site of the ABC Bud Light Championships. Tim Brando and Mike Durbin with you. We're entering the 4th frame for Couture now.
Couture up 14 with the strike working, can increase it to 24 and really put Holman in the hole. Through the heart again, twice in a row in the right lane. The right lane must be breaking down and hooking more than the left. Both bowlers are going high on it. Leaves the 3-6, and another opportunity to really put the heat on Holman is wasted.
Couture has always done well at the Masters. He's made the cut 6 times.
And you see he's shooting this spare differently than Marshall Holman did. Moves way left and converts it. That's the way I would have thought Holman would have shot the 3-6-10, but he chose not to.
Right now, that could be the most pivotal shot of this game.
Sure, all right, Tim. The 14 pins can disappear very quickly. Fifth frame. Couture on lane 31.
And in the left lane, he leaves the 10 pin.
The weak 10. Been in the pocket every time on 31. 32 is the lane that's giving both bowlers trouble right now. Couture, if he converts this spare, will still be up by 13 pins, but Holman still has a chance to get his act together.
Born in Lewiston, Maine, now makes his home in Windsor Locks, Connecticut.
At the 10 pin, no trouble.
Yep.
And Holman asking for a re-rack on lane 32 at the ABC Masters tournament here. The bowlers are allowed 1 re-rack per game. If they request one further than that, the tournament director, Ed Bauer, has to take a look at it. And high again, and gets a lucky strike. And Holman plays to the crowd as he always does, but he is lost on the right lane.
Sort of a sarcastic gesture of ecstasy there from Marshall. He knew that he didn't necessarily deserve that one, but he'll take it.
But right now, let's see, the important thing is, can he take advantage of that lucky break? You don't get many of those. Remember, he had the bad break in the 4th frame when he left a solid 8. Trying for his first double. And solid 10. Boy, he gets the good break, and then right back they hit you. That's the sport of bowling. Holman, unlike Couture, using a plastic or polyester ball, where Couture is using a urethane ball. At the 10 pin, hard and straight.
So now Marshall Holman hanging tough with Couture, down 13 pins as Couture now prepares for the 5th frame.
Couture in the first match against Buenrostro had 2 doubles and was clean. And in this match, he's clean through 5 frames, but is still searching for his first double. We haven't had more than a double yet. Scores have been moderate.
6th frame now for Couture.
Light and gets that 5 pin out of there. Leaves only the 2-4, making the spare much easier. Lead is now 11 pins if he makes the spare, which should be a simple conversion for him. At the 2-4. Has it. We hear the pins in the background. That's Ballard warming up, waiting to bowl the winner of this match.
It's got to be a little bit of a culture shock, Mike, when you've played so well and you've earned as much money during a career as he has, to have had the 2.5 years that he's had in this sport.
Oh, yes. It's a test of your character,
Yep.
That's for certain. Lane 31.
10 pin left.
Is it going to hit it? It
No.
hit it, but didn't knock it over. That puts the match back in a 10-pin mode. In other words, if Couture makes this 10 pin, he is only 10 pins ahead. Going at a 196 clip, Holman going at a 186 clip. So still anybody's ball game, to use an old cliche.
Couture's last win was in Kansas City in 1982.
Cross lane at the 10 pin.
So Couture continues to come up with the common spares, still has a lead over Marshall Holman, thought by many to be the favorite here in Las Vegas. There's Marshall Holman, 31 years of age and on top of his game. We're in the 7th frame from Las Vegas, the ABC Bud Light Masters.
Has not hit the pocket on this right lane yet. And leaves the 410 this time. Just has not been able to solve lane 32. Has been high every time. And he has to go for the split right now. I mean, he's in a situation where he was down 10 pins. If he makes this, he's still down 12. And he has to go for this.
Although he's been on top of his game, Mike, there are those that believe, you included, that this could be the biggest game of his career.
Well, if he wins this, it gets him loose. He could go on to win this tournament and achieve that goal of bowler of the year that he wants so badly, as he doesn't convert the split, and he's really digging himself a hole now.
So an open frame in the 7th for Holman, down 23 pins.
Marshall, with 3 frames to go, as you say, is down by 23. And seems down in his spirit right now. He just can't get anything going. He's still potential, though. 203 if he would strike out.
In the pocket and clean.
Having no trouble with lane 31. Been in the pocket every time on that lane. Has not gotten close on 32. Couture, who only has 2 strikes in this game, though, is going at a 196 pace right now. So Holman's still, the old adage, if you can do it with a pencil, you can do it with a bowling ball, is still, Holman's still in the match. Couture, light, 2-4-5. Boy, neither bowler is able to solve lane 32. They're just a little high, a little light. Holman's been high every time. Couture at least uses a little variety.
Yeah. This is a big spare now for Couture.
Certainly is. 2-4-5, not the easiest spare in the world. And
Got it.
has it, boy, just barely. I'll tell you, that ball was sliding, and that 2-pin just nicked that 4. Watch the 2-pin, Tim. The ball is barely going to hit the 2-pin, and it just clips the 4 as it went by, and the 4 just slides off. It really never fell down. It just slid off the back end.
Couture up 20 pins now. 8th frame.
Ninth
frame.
Ninth frame action. Trying for that foundation strike. It has it.
Boy, now that gives him now the opportunity to...
He cannot be shut out. What
Right.
that does is that if Holman were to strike all the way out for that 203, Couture can still step up in the 10th frame and win the match. This is it. Right here. This is where crunch time. And something is bothering Marshall Holman. Something distracting his concentration. But this is a test of his greatness. He has not been close on this lane yet. Let's see if he can do it when it really counts. And, boy, he sure does. I tell you, that's what I say. You find out what they're made of then. That cuts a 20-pin deficit to 10. One more strike, and he is even in the match. And he has been in the pocket every time on lane 31. However, he left a solid 8 in the 4th frame and a solid 10 in the 6th frame.
And Pete Couture has to live with the fact that he had opportunities
To put
him away
earlier, right. Tenth frame to even the match. And a solid 10. Oh, he threw it great. Oh,
And that's happened many times in this game to him. That
Oh.
10 pin being left when seemingly he was in the pocket and had things going his way.
he was in the pocket. Watch the 6 pin. Second from the right. It's going to just fly around the 10. We see the 10 pin there, and Holman has converted it. That will force Pete Couture to mark in the 10th frame. Holman, with a strike, will wind up with 182. Pete Couture going at a 193 clip would need a mark of some kind in the 10th frame to win the match. Boy, Holman threw that ball great, and it just didn't strike.
Got it.
This one does, though. Boy, that's the way bowling is so many times. That fill ball is always carries. As Holman shows it what he thinks of it. It was just so important to him. Couture wants a re-rack. Holman going through some gyrations. He's just very, very upset right at this point. But it's a equally important ball for Pete Couture right now. Couture wins this game. He can go on and win the match or win the tournament, win $43,000.
Something he hasn't done in 4 years.
He needs a spare or a strike of some kind. And
There it is.
That's it.
Pete Couture upsets Marshall Holman in the second game of our ABC Bud Light Masters Championship. Now he will move on to take on Ballard.
Couture said last night that if he gets something going, the other guys better look out. And he's only had 3 doubles, 1 in this game and 2 in the other game. But he can go on to win $43,000 maybe. Leaves the 4 pin. He's going to wind up with 202 with a conversion, win by 20 pins. And Holman, even though he loses, will still be the leading money winner at the end of the winter tour now, or at the end of the ABC Masters. Takes over that spot from Walter Ray Williams.
And he does mark in that final frame, and obviously a very big moment for Pete Couture, who does advance. Del Ballard will take on Couture when we return to Las Vegas right after this. The second qualifier in our field of 5 is Del Ballard Jr. on the left, and Couture, after winning twice, would now meet Ballard, and we pick up the action in the 7th frame with Ballard up by 12 pins. Mike?
Right, and in this 7th frame, Del is making a change in angle. In the 5th frame, he played extremely outside between the 1st and 2nd arrow. He's moving in closer to the 4th arrow here and gets the wall shot, maintaining his 12-pin lead.
So he made the adjustment and got the necessary reaction.
I can't believe these young guys, as we see a replay here, moving in deep inside after he threw the shot before on this lane between the 1st and 2nd arrow. That ball was close to the 4th arrow and had enough drive on it to barely get out the 4, 5, and 7.
So now Couture is meeting up with a power player.
Chance to increase his lead to 22. Look at that head pin come back off
Yes.
the wall and get that 10 pin.
Is that the messenger strike?
That is what is known as the messenger strike. You've got it right. And we're going to see it here. The thing to watch here now and have our viewers watch is watch the head pin. The ball hits that head pin. The ball takes out the 5. The head pin goes to the sideboard, comes all the way back cross lane and gets that 10 pin. Couture now heading into the 8th frame, down 22 pins.
He needs a strike right here.
Cut the lead to 12 if he can strike. Oh, threw it so well and left that 4 pin. The ball looked good all the way and just snapped at the back end, leaving the 4 pin. Couture, the picture of dejection there.
Remember now, though, Couture could do no worse than $20,000. He's only won $7,000 so far this year.
And we see the difference between the stroker Couture and the power player Ballard. As Couture, this ball just tails at the end and leaves that 4 pin. Him playing around the 8th board, easily converts the 4 pin, keeping himself barely alive.
He knows it too, doesn't he?
Certainly does. You can tell from the look on his face there. The situation is that Pete Couture can strike out for a 194. Del Ballard is going at a 196 pace. So a strike here for Couture is absolutely essential. He knows it too. All these bowlers can keep scores like calculators in their head. He's going to be a little high. Leaves the 4-7. The ball, he thought it was going to hold in the pocket, and it just hooked a little high. Really the picture of dejection now. Now he knows that he's in serious trouble. The best he can get right now is 182 if he would strike out.
There you see right there, he just
leaving the 4-7 as
in the high
the ball run high. He's in trouble on the spare. Oh, and takes the 4 around the 7, looking off to the side. Somebody bothered him off to the side.
So he leaves the 7, and it's an open frame now for him in the 9th. That really opens the door now for Ballard to put him away.
That just handed the match to Del Ballard. Ballard just basically now has to keep the ball in the building in these last 2 frames. The best Couture can get is 171 if he gets all 3 strikes in the 10th frame. Del Ballard going at a 196 pace has an overwhelming lead right now with 2 frames to go.
Only 22 years old, the native of Richardson, Texas.
A little tight, leaves the 4 pin. He says that's just fine. Maintains his lead, which was 35, now is 34.
You know, he bowled well in Miami the 5th week of the tour, and he really, though, has questioned his intensity level from time to time. That's really been the only problem spot for him.
Converts that 4 pin easily, and he's going to be the winner to go on to the next match. He still has to show up here for the 10th frame, and he's definitely going to be the winner if he doesn't foul or throw the ball in the channel or some horrendous thing. And we have seen a couple fouls. We saw one last night.
Marshall Holman defeated him in the finals at Austin back in '83. He said, I'm the guy that snapped Holman's losing streak.
He was. Holman had not been able to win. Right through the heart of the pins, breaks up the split, leaves the 6-10, but that's enough. He's a winner, and he's going to go on to face Mark Fahy.
And these are the same 2 men. We should mention that Fahy and Ballard met in the qualifying last night, and it was Fahy that did win, but it was a very, very close 4-game match.
That's right. Fahy came on at the end shooting 230, 240 his last 2 games in order to win that 4-game match.
And there it is. Del Ballard getting the job done.
1 more strike and he'll finish with 193.
He's earned $31,488 in the past year. So far in '86, $22,000. But he'll better that this year, won't he?
Certainly will.
So Del Ballard, who qualified 2nd, will in fact take on the top qualifier, Mark Fahy, when we return in just a moment. The championship match of the ABC Bud Masters is about to get underway. On the right of your screen there is Mark Fahy.
And interesting, lane 32 has been the toughest lane for everybody so far. Mark Fahy has chosen to finish on that lane. As these two young players, Mark Fahy 28, Del Ballard 22, are about to bowl the most important game of each of their careers. Fahy high, breaks up the split, leaves only the 3-pin.
Both of these men are considered power type bowlers, and Fahy himself is an admitted street fighter. He really battles you.
I thought it was so cute when you were interviewing him earlier, and he said he grew up that he was a mean kid, you know.
Made no bones about it, did he?
Right. He had 17 Golden Glove fights. He was 16-1. Said that the reason he gave it up is that even after he won, he spent 3 days in bed recovering. Ballard, that new inside line on lane 32, and he seems to have solved the difficult lane.
These two met last night in the qualifying rounds to determine first and second today, and it was a very, very close 4 games that they put together.
And Mark Fahy came on, shot 231, 245 his last 2 to win the 4-game match over Del Ballard. Ballard said that he never got his intensity level high enough, but he seems to be revved up now, and that adrenaline seems to be pumping. Trying for a quick early double. Comes in light. He's stuck at the foul line.
Yep.
Del Ballard slides a long way, leaves only the 2-pin. Good break there for Del. And again, once again, we see that no bowler is able to jump out to that early lead.
Well,
we can see if he sticks here. Right there, something happens, and the ball definitely falls off balance to the right. Throws it straight, no hook at that spares, as so many of the power players are doing nowadays. They throw that great big hook at the first ball, but they throw it very, very straight on the second ball. It spares.
Fahy has won $16,000 this year to this point.
6 feet, 225 pounds. Takes a short approach.
And a heavyweight hit.
Exactly.
That added strength and power he uses, and uses well.
Mark Baker, another young power player on the tour, does the same thing. He's 6'4", about 215, 220. Finished second at the Tournament of Champions this year. Fahy trying for a double and an early 10-pin lead.
And he got it. Yes. Well, that was a beauty. Much as the one preceding.
Watch him. As he's playing, swinging it out wide of the second arrow, out close to about the 6th board. The ball comes in flush in the 1-3 pocket. Ballard 10 pins behind. Trips that 4 are so tough to do this week. Ballard now, who was having trouble on lane 32 and hitting 31, has switched it around. Now he's hitting 32 and cannot strike on 31.
His mom and dad took him around to bowling centers at the age of 5, and ever since then he is.
And that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah,
He's
17 years.
He's only 22.
He always knew this is what he wanted to do. How many kids that age really understand what they want?
To even the match. And does.
So it's Del Ballard Jr. and Mark Fahy for the championship of the ABC Bud Light Masters from Las Vegas. Right back. Mark Fahy qualified in the top spot for the ABC Bud Light Masters Championship. Now in the 4th frame.
Even in the match. Working on a double, trying for our first turkey of the day by anybody. And
Three
has
in a
it.
row. Yeah, 3 in a row for Fahy. Well, we haven't seen
3 in a row
Not
before
at all.
that.
Not at all. And that's the lane that has been giving most people the trouble.
Right.
The right lane.
And Fahy, whose heart is beating 1,000 times a minute right now, tries to control his emotions, get himself under control to make one more good shot. Up by 10, can increase it to 20 if he can get one more. Working on 3 in a row. And has the 4-bagger. We got a little excitement here now, Tim.
I think he's beginning to feel it. We've got a couple of heavyweights throwing lefts and rights right at one another.
Del Ballard, 22 years old, has to respond to the pressure of the ABC Masters and being down 20 pins in the 5th frame of the final game. Working on a double. And
10 pin is left.
boy, he threw it well. Just left that weak 10. Easy to do from that deep inside angle.
But the way Fahy is playing right now, if you're Ballard, you got to be thinking strike almost every throw, don't you?
Exactly right, Tim. Right now he has to compartmentalize and get that concentration on converting the 10 pin.
Down 21.
No hook at all. Throws it straight, flattens his wrist out. I could see that future stardom is almost written all over this young player. He has all the shots. He can hook it. He can throw it straight. He's developing into a good spare shooter. And he seems to be able to respond to the pressure situations. And those are the departments that you have to be able to master and become proficient at to become a star in the sport of bowling. Down 21 pins, 6th frame. Something happened to just distract his concentration. At 22, he has the composure to step off the approach and not go through that shot.
Boy, in a game when you need strikes, that one really comes at a very handy time.
Trips that 4-pin twice in this match now. He's tripped that 4-pin. And that just doesn't happen that often. Look at the concentration. Very square as he goes to the line. He's rooting in. Watch the 2-pin. Goes to the wall. And just the neck of it just nicked the butt of the 4-pin. Fahy working on 4 in a row. 21 up. Trying to put the nails in his coffin right now. He's there. Oh, 5 in a row.
Gotta be hard to stop that man.
31 pins ahead. And you can hear the crowd, which is estimated to be about 880 in the building, murmuring in the background. Ballard sitting there fiddling with his rosin bag, knowing that he's got to throw strikes to have a chance against this man.
PBA Rookie of the Year in 1981, Mark Fahy.
Ooh, he gave that one a lot of room. It's not going to make it. He just rushed the line that time. Left the 1-2-4. Just didn't want the ball to go high. He just rushed the line, reared up the line.
Almost a feeling of relief, though. Every time a bowler will string 3, maybe 4, or perhaps even running that 6 or 7 roll, it's almost good to get
his
over.
Concentration together now to convert this spare. And he's done it. 1-2-4 is made in the bank.
So the youngster from the northwest side of Chicago rolled his way to a 28-pin lead through 7 frames in Las Vegas. High rollers over on the strip of Las Vegas, but right now all of the rolling for the high stakes at the ABC Bud Masters Championship is taking place right here. Del Ballard needs a strike here, trailing by 28 pins.
Can cut it to 18 if he can double. And pulled it, just turned the ball early, went high, left the 3-pin. Pete Couture comes up behind us and looks at all these strikes. He says, "Is this the same pair I bowled on?" He says. Ballard's in big trouble. Has to make the spare. Has it. But he's just running out of frames. Still down 28 pins as we head for the 8th frame. Ballard going at a 209 pace right now, and Mark Fahy going at a 237 pace. Ballard is still potential 239 if he would strike out, but he's got to get going something again. I don't know whether it's in his wrist or whether something else is distracting. It looks like something physical. And now a phone is ringing, and it's not E.T. calling. And Gets that light hit. He answered the phone.
Yeah. That strike from the stratosphere there coming through for him. Well, he needed it because you got to believe Fahy, though he didn't strike, he did come through with the spare he needed last time. He's really bowling better than anyone we've seen today to this point.
There's the tendency, though, when you get way ahead, though, that you start playing defensive, you know, and you start trying to hold on to that lead rather than increase it. And he gives this one a lot of room. It's not coming back either. Breaks it up, leaves the 1-2. Could have had. That was the exact same shot that he threw in Tucson in 1984 when he left the 1-2, 4-8, 10 to get 5 and lose that match. It was a similar shot, just like that.
That match that he lost, he said, cost him a year in progress in this sport.
Ahead by 26 if he makes the 1-2. And he is in trouble. He missed it.
Boy, the open frame now again opens the door for Ballard.
Pressure. You see, that's what pressure does to you. Now, can he regain his composure? A relatively easy spare. He didn't want to go wide again. He's playing defensive, Tim. That's exactly what's happening. 9th frame, his lead is down to 15 pins, and his concentration is jangled right now. He's got to get his composure back. A lot of room against coming up. Leaves only the 5-pin. But you see the difference in the aggressive style and the defensive style. He puts his hands down and calm down. You're still in the lead. But I tell you, his destiny is not his own right now.
Yep, he's still plus 15 now as we go into the 9th frame.
But you see, even if he converts this, the best he can get is 234.
Yep.
If Del Ballard, and he just got the 5-pin. If Del Ballard would strike out, he would wind up with 239. Del Ballard can control his own destiny. But right now, he trails still in the match by 15 pins. He knows that Fahy has lost his concentration somewhat. He knows that the match is his for the taking if he can do it. Oh, and he just pulled it, left the Greek church with the 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, and it's just a matter of 2 young men and the pressure being enormous. He just never got out of this ball clean. Knew it was trouble from the time he let it go. He's looking at it right through the heart. He's got to go for it. He's got to aim at the 3 pins on the right, the 6, 9, 10. Hit the 6-pin thin and hope it goes over and does some damage. And he hit it just right, but he got a horrible result. And he's almost entirely handed the match to Mark Fahy.
The atmosphere, Mike, is so different here than we're used to seeing here in a convention center with the wide open spaces. Does this affect these players? It seems like we've had a lot of atmospheric problems.
It's the pressure that affects him. He's got 173 in the 9th. The best he can get is 203. Mark Fahy is going to be the winner.
And there's a strike for Ballard.
Mark Fahy just needs to keep the ball on the lane in the 10th frame. In fact, if Del Ballard does not strike on this ball, Mark Fahy doesn't even need to show up for the 10th frame. He's a winner without showing up. You see how quickly everything can change in the sport of bowling and how enormous the pressure can be for one shot. And that's it. The best he gets is 193. Mark Fahy has 194 if he doesn't show up. So Mark Fahy is going to be the winner of the 1986 Bud Light Masters and has gotten the monkey off his back of losing in Tucson 2 years ago, and maybe this will spur him on to really be an outstanding champion on the PBA Tour.
And for Ballard, a 2nd place finish.
And Ballard is just so unhappy with himself for that 9th frame shot. He had his chance.
Last time he finished 2nd, it was to Marshall Holman in '83.
Fahy just keeping the ball on the lane, leaves the 5-8. That's enough.
Yep. Very disgruntled Del Ballard, but Fahy just had to stave off the pressure somewhat in the last few frames of this game.
Well, that ball can get awful heavy as he's going to miss. No, he got up to get that spare. Just barely got the 5-pin. He's going to finish with 222 if he strikes, which is our high score of the day. We didn't have a lot of 200s. We had a 213 by Couture in the first match, a 202 by Couture in the second, and Fahy's 222 if he strikes here.
And he got it. fitting way to end the ABC Bud Light Masters champion. It's Mark Fahy from the northwest side of Chicago. We'll chat with him when we return right after this.